I've sat into several of your presentations, and I'm always that silent guy in the back row that doesn't want to say anything, distract you from what you're doing and the message you're portraying. But I gotta say, it really warms the heart when like anything, you have frustrations when you come into work and you're like, man, am I really doing something? Is this really helping? And then you come to a program that you're presenting, and you talk about the importance of near miss and all the things that it can do and all the benefits it provides.
Stay tuned. Coming up in this episode, it's part 2 of my 2-part interview with John Russ, the program director for the National Firefighter Near Miss Reporting System, as we talk about this incredibly valuable learning resource for first responders. But first, let's hear from our amazing sponsor, Midwest Fire. Every day, the hard-working men and women at Midwest Fire build the most reliable firefighting apparatus to be found anywhere. Their customers know a well-built fire engine means lives and property saved. Midwest Fire, a factory direct manufacturer dedicated to helping you extinguish fire before it becomes a raging beast. To learn more about what fuels their passion, visit MidwestFire.com. Hello and welcome to episode 306 of the Situational Awareness Matters show. I'm your host, Rich Gassaway. The purpose of this program is to help to improve situational awareness and high-risk decision-making for individuals and teams who work in high-stress, high-consequence, time-compressed environments with changing conditions. The SA Matters mission is simple. We want to help you and your team see the bad things coming in time to prevent bad outcomes. I'm coming to you today from my office in St. Paul, Minnesota, having just returned from doing 2 programs, one for the Evans Fire Department in Evans, Colorado, and one for the Waconia Fire Department here in Minnesota. Today's feature segment is sponsored by the Situational Awareness Matters Online Academy. The Academy trains and certifies your members on situational awareness skills essential for improving high-risk decision-making outcomes. To learn more about this highly acclaimed program, visit samatters.com and click on the Online Academy tab under the training section at the top of the homepage. All right, let's jump into today's feature segment, part 2 of my 2-part interview with John Russ, the program director for the National Firefighter Near Miss Reporting System, as we talk about this incredibly valuable learning resource for first responders.
I've talked with their CEO several times. He's a firm believer, kind of like you and I, on the importance of sharing this stuff out and capturing near misses. And that's why he's been such a proponent of ours. And I'm really excited because I've been working on this local application, and I know that there are viewers right now that I've spoken with probably 2 or 3 years ago. Hey, this is coming. This is coming. I am going to continue on that bandwagon that this is coming. I'm not quitting on this. It's taking a lot longer than I wanted, but the IAFC will have a local application for near miss reporting in the near future. And I'm excited to maybe when we do have that thing spun up, coming back and talking with you and kind of showing the whole system and how it works, and really providing a good service to the fire service.
Yeah. Now, will that be free for fire departments to use, or will there be a fee for that?
So for the local application, there'll probably be a fee. We've talked a lot about fee structures. I'll tell you one story. When we looked at doing this in my fire department, we had thrown out the number, okay, this is going to be $5,000 a year, I think, for our fire department. And then when we started looking at the numbers, it ended up coming to be like, it was going to cost us $500 a report to process. And the chief was like, I love it. I love what you're doing. But I can't pay $500 a report to use this system. So we really have gone back to the drawing board on how to make this because like I said before, whatever we do, I want to make sure that whether you work for the biggest fire department in the country and have unlimited resources, we want you to be able to use this system. But where I live in Tennessee, I've got a neighboring fire department that just started 2 years ago that literally is running a fire truck out of a barn, where their own firefighters are still paying for the gas for the apparatus out of their own pockets. They have just as much of a right to this sort of system as the largest with the biggest resources. So that's something where I'm extremely passionate and making sure that growing up in an extremely small fire department, I want to make sure that they have those resources as well. The IAFC is absolutely on board with that. You mentioned that we met at the VCOS symposium, and the volunteer combination officers section is an extremely strong organization. They're a huge section of the IAFC. And when we talked about this near miss reporting, they said the same thing. Hey, look, this is great, but if our departments can't afford to use this, then it's kind of pointless. So we're looking to make this thing to where it's a resource for everybody. Unfortunately, we will have to charge some sort of fee. What that fee structure looks like, I'm not really sure. But with that being said, no matter what, our national system that we're using now is going to continue to be free, anonymous, non-punitive. Anybody can go to that. There is no login, like I said. You can go onto our website, and that will continue to be the case. So even if the local application isn't something that that you feel like is right for your fire department, there's still a national system that you can go onto and utilize. And a lot of the resources that we're looking to do with the local application will be available on the national. You just won't be able to see what's going on with your specific fire department.
If somebody uses the local, and fills out the report from a local incident, will that information then be automatically transmitted?
Yeah. So
into the national system?
So what we're looking at doing, because again, we want to make sure that our analytics piece is right. So we have certain questions on our system that are like drop-down selections, right? I was going to a single family structure fire, or the contributing factors piece that we were talking about. This near miss had to do with situational awareness or decision making. Any of those selection boxes are going to automatically transfer into our analytics piece, right? So when you look at our analytics at the national side, you're going to see a true rendering of not just what's the reports that are in our system, but the reports that are going to be throughout the entire local application for every single individual fire department. What we want to do, though, is again be good stewards to the anonymity and the anonymity portion of our reporting system on the national side. So what we've encouraged our local applications to do is when you have a near miss report, you're going to be the one who decides, hey, this report needs to be shared nationally. When you share it nationally, it's going to go into our first step of the review process. So even if you say, hey, this is a great report, we need to share this nationally, we still will have reviewers that will look through it, make sure it's anonymous, make sure it's providing the right message to where it's not coming across as punitive or degrading or anything like that. So it's still going to go through a review process. A lot of people ask me if that was going to be just like, if you select it as, yes, I want to share, or if you just make it as it's going to share, or you have to select where it doesn't. I'll tell you that the aviation industry has a really interesting dilemma on their hands where they get thousands and thousands of reports shared to their system to the point where they can't keep up. And if you really start looking into near miss reporting or unwanted incidents or any sort of event that people share with regards to human errors or anything like that, some hospitals, we've seen this, they get inundated with reports that they can't even process. So from my point of view and my perspective, while I'm looking forward to getting these thousands of reports into our system, if you've had a slip, trip, and fall, you've had a slip, trip, and fall, and you might not be able to provide that really true, meaningful, yeah, we should have squeegeed the floor. That's probably not the most impactful story that we can provide on our national system. What we're looking for on the national side is, kind of like the story I shared before, the guy who gets stuck in the basement and just by sheer luck, the door opens up, he's able to evacuate, and then go into the discussion of all the post-traumatic stress he's dealt with. That's one of those things where you can learn and take away a lot from that story. So our local application, we've really stressed with our beta testers, hey, the only thing we're really looking to push to the national are those really impactful stories. We don't need to see every single slip, trip, and fall, because that's just going to muddy our waters. So I hope long-winded answer to a pretty short question.
Okay. So let me switch gears here for just a moment and share with us what are some of the more pressing or more common type near-miss report topics that you're seeing come into the system. What's the trend?
Sure. So we're seeing a little bit more on the post-traumatic stress side, which I think is really encouraging. We for years and years, we didn't see anything really talking about the mental side of these sorts of incidents. And with the post-traumatic stress issues that we're having in the fire service today, we need to really try and understand that not only is near-miss reporting a extremely important value added to the fire service on a national realm, where I can go in and read about these incidents and learn from the individuals who experience this, but from the therapeutic side as well. All the near-miss reports that we've had where we've had post-traumatic stress discussed about, our subject matter experts have kind of interviewed those individuals, and the resounding response that we've had back was, I've written that near-miss report probably 30 times before I actually submitted it. And by writing this stuff out was extremely therapeutic. It allowed me to get this stuff off of my chest. It allowed me to not have this stuff boiling inside me. And when you talk with a lot of psychologists and the peer reviewers and the folks that are doing this stuff that are much more versed in the psychological aspect of this than I am, they encourage that. They say, look, just write it down on a piece of paper, pull up a Word document and start typing away, and just get out your feelings, get out what happened, talk about that stuff. And so I think that's a trend we're starting to see a little bit more of. I'm interested in maybe reaching out to some of the like the Behavioral Health Alliance and some of these other organizations that are really analyzing near-miss or post-traumatic stress issues, and talk about how we can be a better steward as a system to allow these folks to share these things. I think that's trending more and more. We've had this slew of reports too, which is very random. I don't know if people are reading this and then just saying, oh, this happened to me too, so we're gonna share. But we've had a slew of reports regarding carbon monoxide on medical calls. So again, this happened in my own fire department as well. We had, I'll tell you my story. We had a engine company that went to a local athletic club it was a slip and fall. The guy had slipped in the bathroom. He was changing clothes. He slipped. He bumped his head. Probably a call that we run every single day, thousands times a day throughout the United States. And we have this little carbon monoxide single gas detector on our medical gear. We actually purchased that based off a near-miss report that we read. We heard about a near-miss where a guy went into an event where they thought they were going into an overdose, and they went into the house and their carbon monoxide alarm started going crazy, and they realized they were in high CO levels, and it wasn't an overdose at all. It was actually a carbon monoxide. So with our story, we went into this athletic facility, we went down into the basement, and our single gas CO monitor started going crazy. The engine company at the time, of course, since it kind of had to do with near miss, that we got these things, and I oversee our hazmat program, The engine company started cussing me. Oh, this stupid detector is going off and this must be wrong and there's no CO here. They went up and got their foregas, and sure enough, there were parts of that building that had 150 parts per million of CO. They had a leak in one of their sauna exhausts. And to the point where some of the staff that worked down there started seeing their physicians for having migraine headaches after work. And it just so happened that we went in on a completely unrelated call. That CO monitor went off, and they were able to recognize that, yeah, we had a hazmat incident. And again, that was our story, but I'm seeing report after report where folks are having these carbon monoxide issues. And luckily, because they invested in these little tiny carbon monoxide single gas detectors they throw on their medical bags, they're able to recognize the environments that they're going in. So again, I have no idea why that's trending so much, but we're getting several of those. And then I would say the third biggest one that we're getting, and this is something that we're seeing as a tremendous problem we're having here in the fire service. A lot of reports dealing with roadside issues, right? Nearly struck by, vehicles driving into emergency scenes. We've worked really close with Jack Sullivan over with the Responder Safety Institute and trying to provide some resources to them and try and promote the resources that they're sharing out regarding struck by incidents. It's a major issue in the fire service, and as a responder myself, I get more nervous about responding out to the interstate than I ever do about any structure fire that I go on, just because that dynamic is so outside of our control. We can put cones up and use apparatus to block and do all these things, but when you take that human element that's outside of our capability to control, it makes it extremely dangerous. So we're seeing a lot of really powerful reports coming into our system regarding these struck by incidents or nearly struck bys. A lot of great lessons to be shared. We found out one fire department is using old reserve apparatus as a blocking vehicle. That's something that I know some departments neighboring to ours are starting to look at based off of some of these near miss reports. So there's strategies out there that fire departments are coming out with. And I invite you to get on there and look at some of these reports, because they might have solutions that you might not have thought of to kind of help prevent these things, because we're getting struck almost daily, it seems like, and it's a terrible situation. I know Billy Goldfeder is throwing out a lot with the secret list and with his close calls, the various news articles that are coming out about these struck by incidents, and it's a real plague for us, and we're seeing that same thing on the near miss reporting side.
Okay. What are some of the contributing factors that you're seeing that are rising up in the fire service based on the near misses?
With our contributing factors, and you're familiar with this, this is what you do. It really hasn't changed much in the past few years. Situational awareness is right there at the top. Decision making and human error. And human error I have a hard time with as you know, the more I read about human performance improvement, I feel like there's so much more to human error than just using that as a kind of a crutch of contributing factors. And you and I have talked about some things that maybe we can discuss in the future about how to better analyze that. Because what I don't want to see is someone say, oh, well, he just made a mistake and it is what it is, right? When you really start diving deeper into it, it's so much more than just human error. But those are our top three selections still: decision-making, situational awareness, and human error. And I'll tell you, situational awareness, and this drives a lot by some of the things that you've discussed in your programs. I've sat through several of your programs. We're trying to build some of that stuff out to where when you say, hey, I had a situational awareness, this incident situational awareness contributed to this incident, we're trying to capture more information about that. Well, how was situational awareness? What was what did you see? What were the things that you were trying to capture? Where did you get distracted? and we're trying to kind of draw that out a little bit more because it's such a big part of what we do. With our near miss reporting, these are great firefighters that are getting thrown into a situation or an environment where there's so many things going on around them. And I know I'm speaking to the choir with you, but there's so many things going on around them that it's really hard to be able to look at that 10,000 foot view of, hey, here are the things that could get me in trouble. So, when we have these near misses and they're talking about the situational awareness that they were having on the incident, a lot of tunnel vision stuff, a lot of task saturation. We get a little bit of, under training or we get a little bit of communication stuff involved with that. Usually our communication contributing factors have to deal with either poor radio discipline or like technological issues with the radios. But really, when you look at that situational awareness factors, they really kind of go into a lot of depth about all the various facets of situational awareness that you discuss on. That it's really fascinating. It's really fascinating.
Well, I back when I was doing my research and the near miss reporting system was new or newer, I said launched in 2005, and I was in my doctoral program from 2004 through 2008. So I kind of was looking at it on the newer side of it, but I remember seeing summary data of near miss events, and the big three summary contributing factors were situational awareness 1, flawed decision making 2, and human error 3. And I'm very encouraged by what you guys are doing about asking or probing for more follow-up about what contributed to issues of situational awareness or errors in decision making or human error, because as I have seen those identified in near misses, it always leads me to want to interview them to ask deeper questions about, well, what was it about this? Like you said, what distracted you? What task were you fixated on? Did you have auditory exclusion or confabulated reality? And there's so many potential additional explanations besides checking the big box of just situational awareness and thinking that's enough, and it's not. And I'm glad you guys are seeing that there's a big opportunity there to peel the layers of the onion back and get to information that will be more meaningful to the end user toward what they need to do to be more situationally aware, to be better decision maker, to reduce the potential for human error. So that's all really, really exciting for me to hear. Tell me a little bit more about the Human Performance Improvement Initiative. You'd mentioned that somewhat earlier, but kind of talk a little bit more about what you're working on there.
So we had an opportunity to speak at the National Electric Reliability Corporation's Human Performance Improvement Workshop. They do every March in Atlanta. And they just asked me to come in and talk about our firefighter near miss reporting system and how we can better utilize, or they can better utilize a similar type system. And I went and I did a very, this wasn't in front of a bunch of firefighters. There was a few of them that were volunteers that work with the electrical industry. But, we just sat down and talked about what we're trying to accomplish, what our mission is, talked about the anonymity, the non-punitive, all of those different facets that we talked about earlier. And I had an opportunity to kind of just sit down and listen and enjoy the conference for an extra day. So I listened in on what all they were talking about. I don't know a whole lot about the electrical industry. I know electricity is bad and it'll hurt me really badly as a firefighter, and that's about the extent of what I know. So listening in on some of their processes to address human error that they're seeing in their industry and it blew me away. This was the first experience I ever had to human performance improvement. And I started doing a little bit more digging and seeing that, hey, this isn't just the electrical industry doing this. The aviation industry is doing this. The military is utilizing this. Healthcare is using this. There's multiple industries that are kind of seeing that our stereotypical way of trying to capture human error and then address the individual employee that experienced that error and just stopping there. I think a lot of industries are realizing that that's just not going to accomplish what you hope it's going to accomplish. So I was floored, and I came back, and a lot of it is things that we've talked about in various fire departments. Things like situational awareness. They talk a whole lot about the issues they're having in the electrical industry with situational awareness. But they're tying that stuff in, and you also mentioned this before, they're tying that into fatigue and hours worked and things like the weather contributing factors that they're having. So it's, we talk about things like, okay, it's hot outside and we have to be careful of heat exhaustion, and we focus in on that heat exhaustion from the fire service side, but then we miss the boat on, hey, this guy had some flawed situational awareness, and it had nothing more to do that he was distracted from the fact that it was 110 degrees outside. He was wearing full PPE. So when you look at the human performance improvement side that DOE and all these different organizations, all these different industries are doing, it's basically saying all these different facets that we're doing in the fire service, they all tie in together. And it really was kind of a revelation on my end to say, hey, we have a lot of various islands in the fire service that are doing some great things, but we need to try and start tying some of this stuff in together. And so last year we had a small contingency of fire chiefs and representatives from some of the bigger various fire service organizations, such as the International Society of Fire Service Instructors. The IAFF was there. We had some representation from the IAFC. Underwriters Laboratory had some folks there. And we put them all in this big room, and we kind of allowed them to listen to these same subject matter experts in human performance that were speaking at the electrical conference. And they all had a resounding response of, hey, this is it. This is exactly what this is going to be, probably one of the next big things in the fire service. So we're very early in the stages of development on this, but one of the things we're really wanting to do is try and push and promote these concepts of human performance improvement, which again, you've done on several of your podcasts, and allow firefighters to get a better understanding of what things like just culture are, and what things like culture of learning, and how if you stop just at, okay, I had this individual that made this mistake, and if you just stop there with your looking into these unwanted events, you're missing the boat. You're missing what all is so much more under the surface. I know you're going to be at the Center for Public Safety Excellence Conference. I'm speaking the day before you, talking about human performance improvement and how that ties into the firefighter near miss realm. But I think that's one of those things where you're going to start seeing more and more, not just from the near miss side, but from things like what you're doing, and things like, I know you're starting to see a lot more of these articles coming out. And I would encourage those listeners today to really kind of start looking into and reading up on people like Sidney Decker. Conklin, I'm reading Conklin's book right now. It's a great book on the five principles of human performance improvement. The FDSOA, their keynote speaker, Jake, and I'm going to butcher his, I won't even try and pronounce his last name, but the keynote speaker for this year's FDSOA Safety Forum, which I think they just got done with, he is a human performance expert, and it's amazing when you get an opportunity to sit down and learn a little bit more about this stuff, how kind of like I said with near miss and with situational awareness, it's not so much a safety program of, hey, this is going to make us operate in a safer manner. It's going to allow you to just operate better all the way around. It's more of an operational improvement program than a safety program. So there's a lot of various facets to it, and I could go on and on about a human performance improvement. But I think you're going to start seeing a lot more of that, and we want to be on that same boat from the near miss side by providing not only information about human performance improvement, but providing reports that specifically tie into what we're learning from the principles of human performance improvement.
Yeah, that's very exciting and very encouraging, because human performance improvement has been my focus for 11 years now.
Yeah.
And it's,
you've got some amazing resources already out there, and we're already looking into how we can tap some of those things to really kind of help push this along. Because like I said, I think what you're doing with your human performance programs and what you're seeing in other industries, especially, this is one of those things that I'll tell you right now, if you're not familiar with this, it's coming, and it's going to be a huge tidal wave of information coming through the fire service. I think more and more people are starting to catch on and see the value of that. So I absolutely appreciate what you're doing with all that stuff as well.
Thank you. As we wind this down toward a close, is there anything that you would have wanted to share with the listeners and viewers that you didn't get to share because I didn't ask you the right question?
Yeah.
And you're thinking, man, I wish we would have talked about this or this, and we just never got to it because I didn't ask that question. So what's left to be discussed that I didn't ask you or prompt you into?
We covered definitely the big ticket items that we've been working on at the IAFC with our near miss program. I would say continue to get on that website, and I kind of close whenever I have presentations. I always flash up a slide of an old dusty library with a bunch of books, and there's cobwebs everywhere, and I always say, hey, look, this doesn't happen without your viewers and your support. We have a whole library of information. We have tons and tons of information, and I'll tell you right now, it's worthless. It's not worth anything if nobody gets in and looks at it, right? If that information doesn't get shared and people don't learn from the events and the reports that we have in our system, then we're doing this for nothing. It's more than just capturing information. It's more than just collecting near miss reports and putting up, developing and putting up nice, pretty graphs and charts. If you don't get the stories behind those, and if you don't listen to what these guys are saying in their near miss reports, and you're not taking heed, again, as somebody who works in a career department, and I have read every single near miss report that we have in our system. There's not a day goes by that I almost have this flash of, you can talk about recognition prime decision making, but I have these incidents that happen to me on shift where it's like I've had, I remember a near miss almost exactly like this. So if you're not going in and utilizing the system, of course I'm going to ask for you to submit reports. We would love to get more reports, but even if that's not your thing, at least get on there and start reading some of these reports. Utilize them. If you're a trainer, utilize them in some of your trainings. We talk about, if you're doing a 1403 burn and you have to do a safety message, you're like, okay, well, make sure you wear your PPE and yada, yada, yada. And everyone just kind of stands there and, drooling a little bit, waiting for them to go in and do this exciting stuff. If you don't provide some stories of, hey, here's 3 near misses that happened at 1403 burns that you probably should really take heed on. Kind of liven up some of your safety messages. We always talk about, especially with the new age of firefighters coming in that are really kind of trying to pull more and more information from you about why are we doing this and why is this the best way of doing that. I've got a whole slew of reports that talk about, hey, this is why we do certain things the way we do them. This is why we check off our trucks every morning. This is why when we're operating inside a structure fire, or the reason why when we walk in a commercial fire alarm, we pop a ceiling tile over our head to see what's above us. Here's 3 incidents of, people going into a structure fire thinking it was a smells and bells call, and they pop a ceiling tile and see fire overhead, right? Use these stories to your advantage. And so that's, I think, one of the big takeaways that I want to push onto your viewers and your listeners. We have a resource for you. It's completely free. Anybody, you don't have to give us any information. We don't ask for a login or anything like that. Just go on firefighternearmiss.com and start reading, and you'd be amazed what you can learn.
Yeah. All right. Well, John, thank you for taking some time on this Saturday to meet up with me and to discuss this critically valuable program, the National Near Miss Reporting System, that I have been a fan of from the beginning and am always touting and promoting and speaking it up, because it's just such a robust and valuable database of events that we can learn from without having to experience them ourselves, and to, as you said, build those lessons into memory so that when you're on an incident, you get that kind of ping in your mind or a gut feeling that I'm concerned about this event tied to something that you had read in a near miss event or several of them from the past, and how valuable that is. So thank you for coming on and sharing your passion for near miss events.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I hope I look forward to doing this again. I think we should do this again sometime. I can't thank you enough for all the support that you've given our program. We have definitely seen some challenges in the past with keeping this thing going and making sure that it's a vital part, like you said, it's a vital part of what we do in the fire service. And I've sat into several of your presentations, and I'm always that silent guy in the back row that doesn't want to say anything, distract you from what you're doing and the message you're portraying. But I gotta say, it really warms the heart when like anything, you have frustrations when you come into work and you're like, man, am I really doing something? Is this really helping? And then you come to a program that you're presenting, and you talk about the importance of near miss and all the things that it can do and all the benefits it provides. And I will tell you that there's been several times that you've remotivated me of, hey, this is why we do what we do. And I greatly appreciate everything. Look forward to working with you more in the future. Looking forward to reciprocating several of the things that you do. You promote our stuff all the time. And I will tell you that those near miss users, you're going to see a lot more stuff coming out from Dr. Rich Gassaway on our side as well, to get that information, because we have a partnership here where we have the same mission, we have the same vision, and I'm really excited for the future.
Yeah, good. Thank you. And thanks everybody for watching and listening, especially on the Facebook Live feed today. We appreciate that as well. Thank you, John Russ, for sharing your passion for improving firefighter safety. Remember, this is part 2 of a 2-part show, so if you missed part 1, be sure to swing back and give episode 305 a look or a listen. In case you're not aware, this show was launched back in 2014 with a purpose: to give a platform to those who've had near-miss events to be able to share their stories. When I'm on the road delivering situational awareness programs, people share some of the most amazing near-miss stories. Their stories motivated me to launch this podcast so their lessons could be shared with a bigger audience. You. The Situational Awareness Matters show, podcasted as SA Matters Radio, and our companion video program, SA Matters TV, along with other videos we have posted, have enjoyed more than 1 million views, listens, and downloads. And I am so honored to be able to provide this free platform for those incredible lessons to be shared. If you like the show, please do me a solid favor and subscribe. For the audio version of the show, search and subscribe to SA Matters Radio on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher Radio, or iHeartRadio. For the video version of the show, you can subscribe to SA Matters TV on YouTube. Since 2007, our instructional team and consultants have helped more than 1,300 organizations and have trained over 86,000 individuals on how to improve high-risk decision-making, including fire, police, EMS, industry, military, business, medical, utility, transportation, aviation, energy production, biotechnology, and more. If someone you know works in a high-risk, high-consequence, decision-making environment, then we are here to help to improve their safety and to help them accomplish the most important goal of all, and that's to go home whole and healthy every day to the ones who love them. I'd like to take a moment to honor and thank some of our recent program and consulting clients. The Evans Fire Department in Evans, Colorado. The Waconia Fire Department in Waconia, Minnesota. The Novellas Corporation in Oswego, New York. The Lincoln County Fire Chiefs Association in Denver, North Carolina. And the Sandoval County Fire and Rescue Services in Albuquerque, New Mexico. If you're interested in attending one of our upcoming programs, here's where we're going to be next. February 7 and 8, we're going to be at the South Carolina Fire Chiefs Association Conference in Columbia, South Carolina. February 10th, we're going to be at the Exxon Mobil headquarters doing a program for their Global Emergency Response Team in Houston, Texas. February 12th, we're going to be doing a program for a biotechnology company in Rhode Island. February 18th through 21, the Bloomfield Fire Department in Bloomfield, New Jersey is hosting 4 days of our live virtual training. So there's what this looks like. They're going to be in their training room. I'm going to be in Texas, and I'm going to be broadcasting live to New Jersey with interaction, discussions, questions and answers, that kind of thing. February 18th and 19th, I'll be at the Atascocita Fire Department in Houston, Texas. February 20th, the Champions Fire Protection District in Houston, Texas. February 24th at the Delaware City Refining Company in Delaware City, Delaware. February 26th and 27th at Firehouse World Conference in Las Vegas, Nevada. March 5 at the Center for Public Safety Excellence Conference in Orlando, Florida. March 10th at the Maryland Fire and Rescue Institute's National Fire Service Staff and Command Program in Annapolis, Maryland. March 14th at the Eastern Oregon EMS Conference in Pendleton, Oregon. March 16 and 17 at the Kitsap County Training Officers Association in Washington. March 23rd at the Spring Fire Department in Spring, Texas. March 24th at the Exxon Mobil Corporate School on the campus of Texas A&M University in College Station, Texas. And March 25th at the Spring Fire Department in Spring, Texas. If you want to see the locations of all the upcoming events, just head over to the samatters.com website and click on the red tab labeled Upcoming Events Schedule. The tab is about halfway down the homepage. Just scroll down till you see it. It's right there in the middle. It says Upcoming Events Schedule. If you're interested in talking with me about conducting a situational awareness assessment for your company or hosting a training program, just click on the Contact Us tab at the top of the homepage and I'll give you a call. Remember to check out the show notes for how to subscribe to our newsletter and how to follow us on social media. There we share ideas about how to improve situational awareness, how to make better decisions under stress, and how to improve the skills of critical thinking and resilient problem solving. Well, that's it. Episode 306 of the Situational Awareness Matters show is complete. Thank you again to my guest, John Russ, the program manager of the National Firefighter Near Miss Reporting System. Thank you to our platinum sponsor, Midwest Fire. Thank you to our feature segment sponsor, the Situational Awareness Matters Online Academy. And thank you to our associate sponsor, Chief Miller. But most importantly, thank you, the listeners and the viewers of this show, for sharing some of your valuable time with me today. I really appreciate your support of the SA Matters mission. Be safe out there, and may the peace of the Lord and strong situational awareness be with you always.
You've been listening to the Situational Awareness Matters radio show with Dr. Richard B. Gassaway. If you are interested in learning more about situational awareness, human factors, and decision-making under stress, visit samatters.com. If you are interested in booking Dr. Gassaway for an upcoming event, visit his personal website at richgassaway.com.